Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Let's Grill John. My name's Phil Makepeace. This is John McKenzie. How are you, John?
Yeah, good mate. Not too bad.
How was your
Raring to go
weekend?
for another week. Yeah, good weekend. Well, apart from the Leeds result, but it's just part and parcel of the weekend when Leeds are playing. So
Well, Fulham lost, so there's worse things have happened, I
it's
guess.
true.
Yeah, West Brom only drew, so I think Brentford are the big winners. I was
Mm.
in Waitrose on Saturday lunchtime, and the kiosk woman was very anxious to know the Brentford scoreline. And I think it was still 0-0 at that point, because I think they scored 2 late goals. But we had a nice chat about all of that.
You're a Brentford fan.
Sorry?
She was a Brentford fan.
She was a Brentford fan, yeah. I mean, where I am is not too far from West London. So, yeah, if I'd been born slightly further east, I may have well ended up being a Brentford fan. Who knows? As it was, I was born in High Wycombe, overlooking the old ground. So I have as big a claim as anyone to be a Wycombe Wanderers fan. And we've got our playoff semi-final first leg Friday week, July the 3rd. So that's going to be tense up at Fleetwood. I mean,
Exciting.
Yeah, I mean, one of Wycombe and Fleetwood is going to be in the playoff final to get into the Championship, which is not necessarily what you might have expected at the beginning of the season, but or 10 years ago. Anyway, Quistery for episode 22 this week is going to be set during the war. And we are going to have a look at chess during wartime. Now, I think Chris has got stuff lined up for World War One and World War Two, but I thought I'd come a bit more recent to 1992 during the Yugoslav Wars, where Fischer and Spassky played a match where, yeah, they played a return match 20 years later. They called it the World Championship. It was not the World Championship, but they did their best to convince the world that it was. But yeah, the quality of chess wasn't super good, but Fischer won the match very, very comfortably, 10-5 with a few draws, like 15 draws as well. And it went on a long time, but yeah, that was the reason why Fischer was then barred from re-entering the US, because they had sanctions against Yugoslavia at the time. So yeah, this is a game from that. This is game 9 from Fischer Spassky 1992, and we are going to have a look at it. So, E4, E5. I'm sure we're okay so far, John.
I've seen this one before.
Oh, we've played this game before. And what's this called? What's the opening?
No, yeah. Spanish.
Ruy Lopez, absolutely. Here we go. Right, okay. We have the exchange variation. Normally, we've had a look at some where, I think we've had a look at a couple of games where White's played bishop to A4, planning to instead sort of shatter Black's queenside a little bit and play eventually the bishop round. But that is not what happens here. We have an exchange variation, and Black takes with the D pawn. The idea being that, in order to keep this clump of pawns, Black has to go away from the centre a little bit.
Does that mean that the queenside castle is preferred?
Queen-side castle is definitely an option here, absolutely, yeah, because you've got a bigger pawn mass in front of the king. But I mean, Black can castle either side, but yeah, Black tends to castle queenside in this line instead. Yeah, good. Right, what happened next? We had castles, and then f6, which is... It looks weird, doesn't it? I say a lot about not moving this f-pawn, because you're going to be opening up lines towards castled kings. But, as you've just said, it's less relevant here, because Black is going to try to castle on the queen side instead. And without having d6, there needs to really be some other support for this pawn, and that can be provided by the f-pawn instead. But if you have a look at, I mean, this position is objectively equal, but I would suggest that White has a better job of trying to get their pieces out. Okay, Black has the bishop pair, and they can make hay with that at any point, but White's already castled, White's got good development, and White can get the first crash through in the sense of d4. Pawn takes d4, knight takes d4, c5, knight b3, so this knight is kind of out of the way. And we have loads of hoover happening. Bishop g4, f3, bishop e6. Right, okay. So we've reached the end of the opening, really, where black has the bishop pair. Black has this nice pawn on c5 looking at d4. But white is fine. These pieces are all well placed to come into the game. This rook obviously is already in the game and it's preventing black from castling. Right, same as normal, I would like you to have a little go at, and we're going to have a different tack this week with how we do this. I'm going to award you points, John, as we go along for the quality of your moves. You'll get 10 points for the correct move. You'll get somewhere between 6 and 9 for a move which is decent but not quite the one that Fischer played, and somewhere between 2 and 5 for moves that are okay but nothing really happens, and 0 for moves that lose material. There are going to be 5 moments for you to guess, and so it's out of 50. If you get 30, I will be impressed. So there's your target, John. But this is the first such moment. So I would like a plan and a move for white, please. Talk us through it.
Well, you've got to bring the knight into play somehow. You want to eventually get your rooks linked up. Just trying to think of a nice position for the bishop to be on, because obviously the kingside pawns for black are protecting the dark squares, so it's probably going to have to swing over somehow onto the queen side. There's a very weak pawn at the minute on, well, it's not very weak, but there's a hanging-ish pawn on the c-file, which I guess you could doubly attack by putting your bishop on e3.
Okay. There's 2 c pawns, aren't there? These are both not so happy. Yeah.
And then if you can start breaking down that side of the pawn structure while the king can't castle, then you're going to have a good old job of actually disconcerting black's position, upsetting it anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'd be tempted to go with the bishop maybe onto e3 and start looking at that. Well, it's pretty easy to defend, isn't it? You just push your b pawn if you're black, and everything pretty much solids up, right? What about? Yeah, I guess the other thing is the other c pawn on c7, which you can get to by going to bishop to f4.
Right.
Again, I guess it's impossible to defend that without moving your king and then ruining your chance of.
Well, you can't move the king because the rook covers the entire d file.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The way you defend this pawn is
you can move the rook is then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, you don't really want to move this rook because then you forfeit castling that way.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But having said that, it's not so crucial that black castles queenside now that the queens are off, I would suggest. So there's something there. Rook c8 wouldn't be ridiculous. So which one are we going to go for?
I think f4.
Okay, bishop f4.
Yeah.
Okay, 7 points. Not the move that Fischer chose, but it's still a good move. As we've suggested, it's not really in black's interest here to start moving this rook, because then black is going to find it very hard to castle. It's going to take at least 3 moves to castle now, and white might start to do stuff against that centralized king. c6 is another option, but again, all of these holes that are just being opened, it's not much fun. This knight
that's an outpost, right?
Yeah, this knight can hop into this outpost pretty much whenever it wants. Bishop c7 may also be a way of doing it. Black really would have to play c4 here to try to make something happen, so that this knight, let's say this knight goes to d4, then they've got this very cute move to defend the pawn and the bishop at the same time. Can you see it?
I guess you can move your king.
If you play king d7, then there's going to be all
Yeah,
sorts of
that's
discoveries
not
here.
nice.
So, what is there? I mean, I used the word cute, so it's not going to be a sort of standard move here. What could we do? It's black.
Oh, castle.
Yeah, look at this. If you castle, then okay, this doesn't look at the bishop, but what have you done instead?
You've attacked the rook on
He
d1.
pinned the knight to the rook and defends the pawn at the same time. So this is a plausible way of doing things. Knight a7 looks a bit. Knight a5 looks a bit tricky, where both of these pawns are then attacked. But I think
you can then castle again.
Well, actually, you can't because this rook is
Oh,
still in the way. This is
Yeah.
the issue. So this looks a bit trickier. But b6, something like knight c6. But then black gains all these moves with tempo. So 1, 2, the last 3 moves have all been with tempo. King goes to somewhere like f1, and then I think you can just quite happily kick it and keep doing this. All these moves come with tempo, and white just doesn't quite ever get going. So yeah, this is. Whoops, I've gone a bit far there. This is a way of doing things, but Fischer chose bishop e3 instead. b6. I think this is the idea really, just to... The point is here, John, that white has developed a piece and black has had to move a pawn. I think that's the main thing. I think c4 here isn't quite as good because now this knight might be able to hop into c5 instead, and you've got this, which I think is a bit better than the game the line we just looked at. So b6 was played by Spassky. a4. Oh, hold on, what have I done? I've missed out a move. Knight c3 happens, bishop d6, and a4. So these pawns are all coming under fire here from white's pieces that are loaded on the queen side. But black castles straight into it with castles, and this is not quite right at the moment. I think, how do you think black can maybe interrupt white's plan here of just going after these guys?
I mean, you could exchange on b3.
Okay.
Just take a little bit of...
Absolutely, that's one way. Good. You take some of the sting out of white's position.
Yeah.
There's another way of taking the sting out.
I guess he pushed the b pawn then.
If you push the b pawn, you're going to have some problems.
You're going to lose a rook.
Yeah, so...
I was thinking it might be tactics, but it's the wrong way around tactics.
Yeah.
You could attack the knight on b3 with your pawn.
I think now you're going to let me in. This knight now comes to life. And yeah, I don't know what... Because this knight is now a very good piece, whereas for here, you see there's no real way. The way to do it is just to play a5.
You could just push the pawn on on the a5, yeah.
Now I know that this... It means that there's loads of light squared holes, but the point is there's no light squared bishop, so it's not that big a deal to allow this as black. The point is that this knight is now a bit stuffed. It can't really do much, and white's plan of getting things going with the rook has disappeared as well because these pawns are stodged up. And it's going to be hard for white to play the move b4 at any point because there's 3 pieces looking at it. So that would disrupt things here. So instead, black castled, and that's not gonna work because of the move a5. So objectively, again, this is absolutely fine for black, but be getting to a position where already you're having to play only moves really just to survive, because everything is under pressure and these guys are not helpful whatsoever. King b7 was tried by Spassky. Okay, it is over to you again. I would like a plan and a move here, please. Incidentally,
Well, it
hello
seems as
to
though
hello to Callum McQueen in the chat. Glad you're watching.
it seems that the whole point behind A5 is to break down the pawn structure.
Hmm.
So that's certainly an option. I guess he's just going to take back with C7, and I guess the net result of that isn't actually terrible because you've just sort of sorted out your pawn structure a little bit. But
Okay.
and then that. Well, I quite like the look of knight to to D5. Potentially. I guess you can then push the C pawn, the backward C pawn.
Maybe, yeah. But then, well, I don't know, because then this pawn feels like it's a bit loose.
Weaker, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So the theme here, John, but we've got 5 pieces plus this A pawn, all fairly well mobilised.
Yeah.
And black really doesn't have much by way of defence. Probably these 4, maybe this one. So we can either try to break through or try to add more fuel to the fire or just generally open up lines.
Yeah, so I guess you could, if you take on B6, then you could do the knight to D5 move next.
Okay.
And that takes away the threat of...
So you'd be putting your knight on its outposts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And almost forcing, I don't know, maybe that just forces the exchange, but...
Okay, so let's have a look. Right, so I'm going to give you 7 points for this as well. It's the right kind of move. Absolutely, you want to... I know that you've undoubled the pawns, but you have weakened the bishop slightly. You've clarified the A file for your rook, and you've taken away this pawn that could possibly look at this, go to C6 to start looking at the D5. So
I've just seen another move that would work. No, maybe not. No, it's fine.
The problem here is that knight D5 isn't a good follow-up. Because it allows black to develop with tempo here. And remember, they've got the bishop pair, and these pawn exchanges might favour a bishop pair because more lines will open. And yeah, here, I don't know, something like C4, and then this knight is going to hop in, start doing things. I'm not sure where your next move is, because this knight is still stuffed, and we can't really do anything with it. We can't. There's no going to be no quick way to double. Your pieces lack a bit of coordination when it comes to attacking the same squares. So if we can find a better follow up here, then that might work. We're trying to take advantage of the fact that these guys can't join the game. We don't want to give black time to let them in.
Well, I guess you could maybe double up your rooks on the A file. That's starting to look quite threatening.
Where are you going to put this rook first? Because these bishops are quite breaky.
I guess black can, can't really move his rook at this point because it's defending that bishop. You could move the knight to A4. Well, it's just going to be kicked away.
Well, I don't think it's terrible. It's not it will be kicked away. I just don't think you're... I think I might just be able to play knight h6 now and start doing things.
And then linking up your rooks.
Yeah. I don't think that... I think we need a disruptive move here, and this is what Fischer played immediately. He played e5.
I was going to suggest that, but I just thought that doesn't really get you anywhere. But I mean, obviously it does because Fischer played it. But,
okay, so
I was thinking that because obviously you can't take with the bishop.
Yeah. So if we take with the pawn, then we can do this, and then things are starting to break apart here. If black takes this, then we're getting some serious traction with our pawns. And if something like bishop e7, then you've got all sorts of nastiness with the fact that these guys are now forkable. So we could just take this, takes here,
Fork.
here, here, something like king c8,
Fork. Yeah.
and you've ended up a pawn to the good, and these pieces are still trash, and you're probably going to take this one next, one of these two. So
Yeah.
the point of e4, e5 is just a clearance. It's done with tempo. Again, we're not letting black get these guys out. And actually, a feature of this game is that these pieces never get out. White just keeps going with the pieces they have focused on the black position, and yeah, never quite. Especially just has a horrible time trying to do things. Right, bishop e7, rook takes, bishop takes, knight e4. So we're starting to threaten, and king to c6. Right, white to play here.
Rook's looking a little bit out of commission at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
If you move the rook to d1,
Okay.
I suspect the knight is just going to move out and defend the bishop with the rook.
Yeah, something like rook e1 and knight.
And you're sort of giving them tempo-ish.
Okay.
Yeah,
we need to be a bit.
Just trying to think of how we can get at the king a little bit more.
Okay.
So every disruptive move just seems like you're going to end up sacrificing a piece. I can't see any
Okay, so
pawn moves that really do much.
The thing to think about in any position, right, is what their last move was. So think about how the game changed, or how the position changed.
Yeah, of course. So if you open up the A file, then you can attack that pawn, or at least get space there. So you could take on B6.
Here we go. Right, 10 points. Good. So you're on 24. We need 6 more from the final 2 moves to get your target. Okay, and then
yeah,
what?
Down the A file would. Yeah, I'd just take the A pawn and open up the A file with the rook.
Oh, he's greedy. He's greedy, our John. 4 points. Not quite.
Ugh.
We need to set it up first. So you're under pressure here. We've got one more move to do. I'll tell you when that is. And you need 2 points from it. Hold on. So if you play rook takes here, then bishop takes here, and yeah, okay, black is a pawn down.
But could you not, in this situation, instead of taking the bishop with the pawn, if you take the pawn on C5
with the
bishop,
right?
With the knight.
Right.
You can't take
the way. The point is, you've lost this knight here.
Yeah. So
this is the issue.
Any benefit? Yeah.
Okay, so something like bishop takes here, pawn takes a knight e7, and white is still doing fine. White is a pawn up, but black has unravelled a little bit here, and you've also lost one of your attacking pieces on b3. So we need a different move here, and the move is it's spectacular, but it's knight b takes c5. Can you see the idea here, John?
Yeah, there's a fork on. There's a pin. No, there's a fork on the 6th rank.
It's not a fork. What is this?
Pin. No.
No. Big piece in front of a small piece. Begins with S.
Oh, the one that I can never remember.
The one where you have a barbecue with this king and the
Skewer.
bishop. A skewer, yes. So if pawn takes, then rook takes a6, and if king goes back to d7 to do this, then we've got this fork here. If the king goes to d5, then, well, I mean, there's lots of ways of winning here, but I think bishop f4 is quite cute. We're threatening all sorts
You could also
the mates.
take your rook onto d6, right? And then
I think then this pawn
forking,
drops. Yeah, I think that's the idea here. That if bishop f4, you're defending the pawn, such that if.
But then, do you not win the bishop anyway?
So let's look. If bishop c7, then there's all sorts of.
No. If you go back, instead of moving your bishop there, now put your rook on d6.
Yeah, I'm saying that this would be taken then.
But then you can just take the.
Okay, but the king gets out, and yeah, this is still very good.
Right, okay.
You're absolutely right. This is still very good. But I think bishop f4 just stopping the king getting out, and then we're going to probably get some kind of.
They can't move any of their pieces after that point as well because the knight is pinned to the rook. But yeah, this is my problem, is that I think about material more than I think about just winning the game.
Yeah, that's okay. This is still perfectly good after rook takes d8 because you're pinning all of these guys to the floor. Right. Okay. So this is not what happened. Knight b takes c5 did happen, but instead bishop c8 happened, and then this is your final point scoring move here. So what did white play, please? You are, where are we? You're a pawn up, so you've got a good position. Just don't spoil it.
Going to disrupt those bishops somehow, I feel.
Okay.
Can't see any way of doing that though. If you went with a knight to e6, you're just going to have the bishop dropping in behind the king probably. Oh yeah, it's going to be taken. Like instinctively, I feel as though you could just go for the pawn on a6 with your knight, and then you're going to get a pawn out of that anyway if he chooses to exchange the
10 points. Sometimes the simplest moves are the best. Just get the knight out of there, grab a pawn, and you finish on 38 out of 50, which is not bad at all. Good stuff.
with a lot of help.
Well, not necessarily. You found the simplest moves are often the best. Right, okay, pawn takes e5 happened, and so white is still a pawn up. Played knight to b4, check, and 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces are still in the attack. You are also a pawn up. These guys are obviously complete crap. This is weak, this is weak. The king is exposed, and black resigned here. There is not a lot to be done. Let's say if king goes to b5, this is mate in 3. Knight d6 check, king takes b4, and then it doesn't matter what happens. If rook a3, whatever black plays, c3 is mate. What an extraordinary mating that, where the bishop and the knight are on the same colour square, therefore they look at different colours between them. This is a nice little thing from when you do bishop and knight mate. So if you have it on the same colour, they will look at different colours to help you. If the king goes to b7, then there's just a very prosaic way of winning here, and we can just come in and grab the rook, which is very nasty indeed. If the king goes to c7, then we can start homing in this way instead, we can play something like rook a7 check here. And then, well, you've got the same thing here. You can take this bishop first. And
Knight
then,
across.
yeah, knight comes in to grab the rook either. So it's just an example of how if you don't get completely developed, you're in all sorts of bother. And yeah, not a lot of fun was had here. It just shows you that, yeah, if these rook and the knight were in the game, then it would be 4v4 and it would be a bit easier to do things. But here, not much fun for Spassky. And yeah, this was game 9, which meant that Fischer went... That was Fischer's 3rd consecutive win in the match. And he went into a 4-2 lead and eventually converted 10-5 a couple of months later. How was that?
Yeah, it's an interesting game.
Yeah, so
It was very, I don't know, it felt like Spassky was on the back foot for most of it.
yeah, it was one of those. It's just objectively equal until King C6, really. But objectively equal isn't the same as psychologically or practically equal, right? And that's the point. But if you get developed fully, you're not going to run into these kind of disasters where it's far less likely if you're fully developed and you've got good central control and your pieces are defended, that you're going to run into one move errors. It's just that's just the thing. If you put your piece on good squares, nice things will happen in attack as well. I am looking forward to hearing what Chris has to say about chess during wartime, but you guys at home will have to wait until Friday morning to hear what he has to say about. I think it's largely World War One and World War Two, but there may be other bits and pieces. But yeah, thank you very much, John. We've done 11 of these. We have a full football team of Let's Grill Johns. And the next stream is tomorrow night around 10 o'clock, where we're doing a Blitz album party. So hopefully see you guys then. Goodbye.